Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnek here for Extra Time. We have had an amazing match to start the series. It couldn't get any closer, right down to the wire, right down to the last deliveries. RCB, Royal Challengers Bangalore, have got away with effectively a 2-wicket victory over Mumbai Indians. And yet again, Mumbai Indians could not win the first match of a tournament of the IPL. Quite incredible. Ebbed and flowed yet again. Wasn't AB de Villiers amazing? The man is ageless. He has just continuously perfected his batting. He's hit sixes at will. And I found it quite amazing, the reaction of the players on the bench. The fact that Dan Christian seemed very, very animated, and the likes of Kohli were laughing their heads off, thinking something that Dan Christian had predicted, I think, from the sidelines had happened. The man has a Midas touch over any match he's involved with. It's almost going to be the Dan Christian IPL. His presence always seems to be successful. Anyway, what a great game. I've got two esteemed guests here. Debashis Sen, who's still on the same lounge with the same chocolate spots I can see. How are you, Debashis?
Fine, Norman. I enjoyed the match as like you, and hopefully Abhijit also enjoyed the match.
And we have Abhijit Panda. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I also enjoyed the match, and it could not get any better for the first match if it is going down to the wire. And we expect, IPL is known for such close finishes, so we couldn't get any better for the start.
It almost was fitting of a final in some ways. It was so action-packed. The reaction of the owners of the teams, I think they've bitten all their nails off their fingers. It was quite incredible. You have to wonder how things could be so close in such a game. It was only a matter of 20 overs. We were spellbound by some riveting cricket. But RCB have won. I'm not necessarily sure whether that means they're going to win the tournament necessarily. Mumbai Indians traditionally start slow, and they looked at Mumbai Indians in some ways looked a little bit rusty. All right, guys. What do you think? What do you think of the match? I mean, of course, RCB won the toss and elected to bowl. Some people say the word chase. I don't agree. You elect to bowl. That in itself, I thought was a good decision for Mumbai Indians, as batting first for them was a great situation. I thought they have a great platform to score a lot of runs. But as it turned out, their score was fair. It seemed quite reasonable. On certain stages looked enough. But in the end, with AB de Villiers floating around, it's never enough. There was that late run out that was quite dramatic. The feeling was stupendous, but it was still an amazing game. All right, Debashis, more about the AB de Villiers innings to you. What did that mean to you?
Obviously, we did discuss, Norman, at our pre-show, is that if AB de Villiers, as we witnessed in the last season, is that his strike rate was 222, means towards the lower end of the innings, and that was the case. RCB required almost 40 runs in the last 5 overs, but when you have AB de Villiers on the crease, any target is chaseable, and that was the case because you could see from the body language in the RCB dressing room dugout, they were confident as long as ABD was there. You could see from the expression of Virat Kohli the moment he hit that six, he and Dan Christian was very animated in the dugout. So I think it augurs well for RCB, and obviously Mumbai Indians will rue their opportunity. They had their opportunity, they had their chances, but I think the run out of Rohit Sharma at the start set the tone. Means obviously that was not the day for Mumbai Indians. So as is the case, last 8 seasons they have failed to win their first match. So this was also the case that they have failed to win their first match in IPL 2021.
It was a very messy actual run out, wasn't it? The run out between he and Lynn. I believe it was Rohit Sharma's fault. I don't think it was ever a run in that. He went out too hard. But look, we were talking earlier, and I was quite what's the word? Having visions of what would happen in the match. Chris led now. Debashis, I did say he would score 73. He missed out on his half century by 1 run, but four fours and 3 sixes. Chris Lynn, I think, would deservedly say he's done his job there in these performances. Set the tone very, very well. And look, I'm arguing, even though they lost, I think Chris Lynch should stay in the side, and both likes of de Kock should be there, perhaps down the order. I think that will be an important inclusion with de Kock, but I do think that Lynn needs to stay. What's your thoughts on first of all, the Mumbai Indians batting?
To me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, if you see Mumbai Indians batting, I mean, there is no such huge difference between the way Mumbai Indians batted and the way RCB batted. It's just that Indians could not finish the things off. They were around 110 in 12 or 13 overs with the likes of Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, and Karen Pollard. They all were waiting. And with such kind of finisher in the dugout, you are getting out to someone like Harshal Patel. So till 12 or 13 over, both the innings went parallel, because for Mumbai Indians it was Chris Lynn, and for RCB it was the Maxwell. The both are kind of a similar innings. After some early collapses or some early wickets, they anchored the innings kind of. So Mumbai Indians, I mean, the finisher simply could not finish. I mean, 20 or 25 runs extra could have won the match for Mumbai. I mean, it's just a couple of boundaries here and there from Pollard or Pandya could have saw the light at the end. So yeah, I mean, Mumbai Indians failed to utilize a very good start, which they could have finished at 180 or 185, but they failed to make use of a very good start actually.
Yeah, it was very much a pity. The bowling of Harshal Patel, now he did take 5 wickets and took crucial wickets, the batters that were just getting in. I mean, like the likes of Pandya. What do you think of Harshal Patel's bowling? Devashis.
Yeah, absolutely. He did bowl brilliantly today. Obviously, he kept to the line, perfect line and length. Used the variations, and it worked wonders for you. But then but he was a touch lucky. Obviously, if you see the shots of Krunal Pandya and Kiran Pollard on their day, those balls would have landed in the boundary, would have
That's
landed
true.
outside the boundary. But that was not the case. But still, I would say that he bowled his heart out. Obviously, full credit to him the way he bowled the death overs. Obviously, he was given the final overs, and when you have the wickets of Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, Kyron Pollard, that speaks volumes, obviously, and rightly so. He was cheered by all the RCB teammates, and he was given the opportunity to lead the team outside. So I think he did really well.
Well, when you consider that Mumbai Indians were they were 3 for 135 at one stage, losing their 4th wicket in the so-called 15th over, they really should have scored 180 plus. Really, they should have at that point. They had a sufficient start. I mean, even though Sharma was run out, Lynn, Yadav, Kishan, they all batted sufficiently well and looked in command. At that stage, I was looking at a 180 plus total. And they fell away from that point quite considerably, losing the last 6 wickets for only a matter of 25 to 30 runs, which is quite frankly a very poor ending to that innings. So at that stage, they looked like 180 plus, didn't they? They really did. And I think they were doing sufficiently well. So it's a disappointing effort from Mumbai Indians at that point to fall away that way. But when they bowled, I think Bumrah bowled quite admirably, and they certainly came back into the match. But A.B. de Villiers, the moment he's on the field, he gauges an innings perfectly. He knows exactly what he's doing and how to do it, and was in complete control, in my opinion, all the way through when he was in bat. So effectively, and I'm just looking at the player of the match, the announcement of the player of the match. It is. Let's have a look here. It's. Can you guys see the player of the match at this point? I don't think it's being said. I'm not. Can you see the player of the match, guys? I can't see.
Obviously, I don't have the TV set in front of me. But then,
Right.
Norman, if you ask me, obviously, I would say that the partnership between Kohli and Maxwell, 50-run partnership of 41 balls, that set the tone for the run chase for RCB because they both were looking good and looking to take the match away from Mumbai Indians. But then, and obviously, and what a day for AB because ABD because exactly 11 years back, means in 2011, he made his debut on this day for RCB, and what a way it turned out to be. So then, and he has been a true Royal Challengers Bangalore cricketer because the camaraderie they both ABD and Virat shared over the years means that's something every RCB fans will cherish.
The opening position of Washington Sundar. What do you think of that? Were you
Yeah,
surprised to see Washington Sundar open?
To be honest, for me, they did not have much of a choice because they are already missing Devdutt Padikkal, and they have I mean Rajat Patidar is still a young guy, and it might be quite tempting for RCB management to try Washington Sundar after his heroics in Test cricket for India. He is a quite handy batsman. He has shown that he unfortunate to miss out on a couple of hundred in the Test. So that could be one of the reason to give free hand to what KKR does with Sunil Narin. So that could be one of the reason. Although we have not seen Washington Sundar pinch hit or hit the word I would use. I mean, he is of course a fantastic test batsman or whatever, but to face someone like a Bumrah or Trent Bolt in the power play, where you will get toe crushing Yorkers or a 150 plus or at least 140 plus today they were bowling. So I would agree with you that RCB might have missed a trick with Washington Sundar, giving Washington Sundar a chance against such a quality bowling. But as I mentioned, it could be quite tempting for RCB management to try Washington Sundar or give him extra batting responsibilities in the absence of Devdutt Padikkal. And I strongly feel till Devdutt Padikkal becomes available, they might look to continue with him as the opener.
Yeah, it's just Debash, just the top four, the way the batting order fell into play, the fact that they put Maxwell ahead of AB de Villiers, and I didn't expect that. I actually thought that de Villiers would have come in earlier than that. As it turned out, it's going to be a match winner to do it in that manner. I thought Maxwell performed particularly well. He certainly showed he obviously must have wanted to bat at second drop, which is interesting. Dan Christian was also in a batting position, as I think he will develop to be a potential match winner. He only got one run today, but Dan Christian's also in that role. They're going to not rely. We had the impression of us is that they're bringing in Maxwell to be a finisher in the innings, but I don't think they're quite settled on that. And maybe it's early stages. The reality is they're going to look at de Villiers and or Dan Christian to do the same role. So that's probably clever not to rely just on Maxwell. It's interesting. You could have even opened with Maxwell, the way they were looking at it. I think that could have even been a bold move in itself. But they won the match, and I was probably also looking at the bowling of I think Bumrah certainly bowled well. Marco Jensen on his debut, Debasis, he bowled well, didn't he?
But then it is asking too much from that youngster. I mean, obviously
No,
20
true.
years old. He hasn't
True.
had the experience of bowling in India, and then to come and bowl in a stage like IPL and against the likes of a star-studded batting lineup means it takes a lot. Means obviously, it is all sheer nerves, and obviously he did come back and bowl well, but then it is asking too much from the youngster. And obviously, bowling at the likes of Virat Kohli or AB de Villiers or a Maxwell or a Dan Christian, it's too much to ask from that youngster.
Oh, there's no doubt, but at the same time, it was a very commendable performance. Rahul Chahar was quite disappointing, though. I felt that he was not on his game, and I think that may have been a pivotal bowling period that he bowled, that he was quite expensive. The reality is that you would argue both batting lineups in the end were quite disappointing. They weren't, I mean, it was their first games, but both batting lineups didn't necessarily perform to their best. but we certainly had large glimpses of it with Maxwell in one hand and De Villiers certainly as well. But I have to be smug. I was very impressed with Chris Lynn. I thought he did his job admirably. It's a real pity in some ways he didn't go on with it. He missed out on his 50. I just hope that they consider him to be in the team regularly. I do think Quinton de Kock's going to come back, but perhaps have him down the order. What's your thoughts, guys? Abhishek, what do you think of that?
Before that, first of all, as you mentioned about Rahul Chahar, I would like to say one thing. I mean, he is going to be going for runs if he's playing for Mumbai for sure because they have already Bumrah and Bolt in their lineup. So it is, isn't it obvious for the opposition to target someone like a Rahul
Yeah.
Chahar and see of other two bowlers? Because today, if you see, even Chris Lynn started hitting Washington Sundar, although he missed it one and he got out. So every spinner got hit for today. Even I think if I look at the scorecard, even Chahal went for 41. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you are playing alongside a Bumrah or a Bolt, who are literally in their days, they are literally unplayable in the power plays. So it might be a little bit harsh for someone like a Rahul Chahar or Krunal Pandya because they are their primary spin bowler at the moment. So that could be one reason that other teams might look to target the bowling overs from 9 to 15 because they know other first five and last five, it is literally almost as close to impossible to target someone like a Bumrah in normal days. So that one. And sorry, I forgot your second question. And hello,
Norman, you are on mute. Mute.
mute.
You
You
are
are on
on
mute.
My
mute.
apologies. The fact is they've come out. They've both come out and they've been able to. They haven't batted as well as they both should have, both teams, but they've come out and actually played a fairly strong first game. They both were a bit rusty. Certain elements were good, certain elements were bad. But I think they're better for the hit out. Both teams will be better for the hit out. And for RCB's luck, they've come out with a win. Okay. All right. So Debashis, on your thoughts, where to from here? RCB have had the victory. Mumbai Indians haven't. I think there's a lot of improvement in Mumbai Indians. I'll be looking forward to De Kock coming back. But I think it was still a fairly strong start for both teams.
Absolutely, as you have rightly pointed out, is that both the teams have the firepower to make it to the playoffs. Means without a doubt, it's just the first match of the season, and we all know that what Mumbai Indians can do. Means obviously, in the last 8 seasons they have lost the first match, but then and they are the most successful teams in the history of IPL, winning 5 times the championship. So uh, obviously they are a team which will definitely bounce back and in no time. And obviously talking about RCB also, obviously there were some they need to look out. Obviously they did win today, but they need to look at the combinations. Obviously, the thing is that Washington Sundar was under bowl, I would say. Means he just bowled only one over. To me, that was a big surprise because he has been your go-to bowler when it comes to the white ball format for Team India. So I think he was bit under bowled because he had opened the bowling for RCB over the in the past. So to see him bowling only one over, it comes to me as a surprise.
Well, they certainly had a lot of bowlers in this side, though, Debasha. So I can see perhaps they didn't necessarily want to consider him. They gave him a true batting order position as an opener and perhaps saw him as a batter today rather than an all-rounder. And that's probably why they did that. The fact that by opening, it almost sent a signal that his bowling wasn't as important in this particular match. But a gamble nonetheless. I think, I mean, the likes of, Siraj and Kyle Jamieson certainly did their bit. They bowled quite well under the circumstances. They probably did miss a bit of match practice. And like anything, you're rusty in your first game, let's be honest. And considering all, they came out and played fairly well. The batting scores were below par. And the very fact that Mumbai Indians could easily have scored over 180 was the crucial part of the game. They lost their last 6 wickets for 20-odd runs. To me, that's where they lost the match.
Absolutely, Norman. Absolutely, Norman. I totally agree with you. Is because I did mention in our pre-show that the team batting first, obviously, and especially in modern day cricket, you need score around 200 if you have to be on a safer side. Obviously, and nowadays with T20 cricket, any scores are chaseable, and when you have a batting lineup like the one that RCB possess, obviously, I think Mumbai Indians were definitely 15 to 20 runs short.
Avijit, now, from your perspective, what did you think of the quality of the fielding, in particular runouts?
See, I mean, if you look at not only the fielding, the runouts and all, today's match was lack of intensity from both the teams. But RCB missed around four catching chances, and the same goes with Mumbai, the way they got run out. So, I mean, maybe the quarantine and all, many players have. If you look at Indian, apart from India, I think South Africa and there are a few other teams which played in recent times. So many of the Indian domestic player had not performed, had not even been on the ground for a long time. Apart from some Vijay Hazare or Mustaq Ali, it is a very long duration. And apart from that, every team has got one or two COVID cases very recently. So we don't know. I mean, what we could only see from the social media and all that they are practicing and they are doing, but we honestly don't know what kind of mindset they are at the moment in and even in the net practice and all. I don't think like 100% dedication and of course dedication and hard work will be there, but they might not be getting 100% of what they usually get when there is a complete IPL and they get their home ground facilities. I mean, nobody is playing in the home ground. Almost every team, five of the teams had their base settled in Mumbai, but now they will travel to another city, another hotel, another facility, and many things. So, of course, both the teams looked rusty, but as the tournament start progressing, I expect a lot of better fielding and better approach or better lightning quick intensity from the fielders on the field, because this time it's in India. Almost everyone is acquainted of the fielding condition and the pitch. No, unlike Dubai, where the light condition is quite different, and you need the match time or the time in the middle to adapt to such conditions. It's India after all. So this could be just one odd game where both the team lacked intensity. And about Rohit Sharma and Chris Lynn run out, all I could say is even Chris Lynn, they were batting for the first time, so that could be a messed up. So yes, hello Chris.
So talking about Chris Lynn, we actually have Chris Vernon joining us all the way from not so sunny England. Yet again, Chris, we've been talking heavily about the match. I'm assuming that from your perspective, you were very happy being an AB de Villiers lover. You must have been cock-a-hoop. Just everyone, just to let you know, I think Chris Vernon has a wall-to-wall picture of AB de Villiers in his room. He doesn't show me that, but I'm pretty sure it's there. So you'll be very pleased, Chris, as per normal. What's your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of said I'm a big RCB fan anyway. And good afternoon, good evening to everyone. It has actually been fairly sunny here today. It's been really cold, but sun has been out. Obviously, really pleased RCB got underway with a win. And I mean, I don't think anyone has to sort of talk about AB de Villiers. You know, in that situation, you know, there's probably no one in the world, or in IPL cricket especially, that you'd rather coming in with that sort of 50-60 to win off 6 or 7 overs. You know, he's just a master, isn't he? And he's time and time again proven how good he is in those run chases. And, you know, that second last over off Bumrah, where he hit the 2-4s, the over extra cover, and then the uppercut over short third man was just brilliant, wasn't it? And, you know, that's why he's paid all the money that he is, and that's why he's one of the best in the business.
How old is he now, Chris? I think he's probably pushing 40, isn't he?
He must be close. He must be mid to late 30s, I would assume. You know, I would say he's still good enough to be playing for South Africa, isn't he? I know he is obviously retired.
37.
37.
I think it's his 12th IPL. So I think they said I think he missed the first one. I'm sure they said it's his 12th IPL. So yeah, I mean, what a talisman for RCB he is.
When I was 37, I could hit the ball that hard, but that's another question. I mean, we don't want to talk about my batting, do we? The reality is that, I had that talent back then. I think that was back in the century. But anyway, all right. The reality is, Chris, okay. Washington Sundar, Chris Vernon, Washington Sundar opening the bat we were talking about earlier. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I assume that ICB are just trying one or two things, just tried something. Obviously, Padikkal is going to come back in. I think he was ill or he was not quite 100% fit from what Cody said at the toss. So, he's going to come in and he's going to open with Kohli probably for the whole tournament, isn't he? So, I guess they just thought maybe it was the left-hand combination. Try and put maybe Bumrah off. I know that you're not a big fan of the left-hand, right-hand theory, Norman, but I assume that the new guy came in.
I never said that. That's your assumptions, not my fact.
And I think that's possibly factored in. They had pretty much the whole batting lineup was right-handed. They obviously see Maxwell, Christian, and De Villiers as their match winners or their finishers, so they wanted to get them away from new ball and Bumrah, I would assume. So, I think they just tried something different until Padikkal comes back into the side, which he will do, I would imagine, for the next game.
Yeah. Now, everyone, I want everyone's comment on Virat Kohli's batting today. Tobias, what's your thoughts on Virat Kohli's batting today?
He looked good. And obviously, he looked good, and as I mentioned, that his partnership with Glenn Maxwell set the tone, because both looked ready to take set to take the game away, scoring 50. It's striking a partnership of 50 runs and 41 balls, and then Virat he became the first batsman to score 6,000 runs, and obviously that's amazing. Means to score 6,000 runs, becoming the first batsman in the history of IPL to score, and that speaks volumes. I mean, obviously, and I think this is just the first match, and we will see more out of him. Obviously, he's opening the batting August well for RCB, and in the coming days we can see more batting flourishes from Virat.
My only criticism is that his actual strike rate was just around the 100 mark. That's my only criticism. I think he maybe have considered a build for a longer and more fruitful innings, and hence why he wasn't starting with a bang. But if you look at both Maxwell and De Villiers, their strike rates were quite sensational in comparison. They were quite dominant in their strike rates. And I think that's the issue that I'm still seeing with Kohli. He's perhaps not dominating with his strike rates as perhaps he may need to. All right. Chris Vernon, which I should have welcomed him more appropriately, but he came in very quickly. Welcome to Extra Time, as I also welcome Abhijit. Both Tobias and I are Extra Time-ites. We've been here for a while. It sounds like a disease, Extra Time-ites, but it's not. It's an actual, it's a phenomenon. So Chris Vernon, just to let you all know, wears some very funny hats. Very often wears funny hats. And today he's got his pink and white ensemble. What was it again? What's your hat you're wearing?
Hi, it's a good friend of mine owns his own cricket company. He grows his own clefts of wood and actually sells a lot of them to Indian bat companies, and he ships them over once, twice a year. But it's hell for leather cricket. So it is a cricket cap. So I'm not just wearing a random red and white cap. It's I bought some new kit off him last week. We've got our first game tomorrow, so I thought why not wear it on here for him. So he's makes bats, and have a search online for his stuff, because it's good kit.
I've heard people say that they grow their own vegetables. I haven't heard people say they grow their own bats. That's an interesting one. So the unusual concept of. I'm sure that's what it is, but it sounds rather unusual. All right, back to the game. We've digressed long enough. Great first match, great hit outs, great to see nail biting towards the finish. The owners of the teams were certainly nail biting at this early stage. They won't have any nails left by the end of the series. They'll be without nails if this continues on. Orchestra, no matter how good or bad the teams played, it came down to the wire, and that is significant. A last over victory for anyone is orchestra, is theatre, certainly in that way. I've talked a bit earlier about where to from here. I mean, quite frankly, the next game with Chennai Super Kings and obviously Delhi Capitals will be another classic encounter. we'll see that hopefully the true CSK come through after a disappointing previous season. And to me, my favourite, of course, to win is Delhi Capitals. Just a moment to digress to that game. Debashes, what's your thoughts on that game coming up?
I would say Chennai Super Kings would be the favorites against Delhi Capitals, because
Really?
that I will give my reason behind it. Obviously, the fact is that having done badly last season not qualifying for the playoffs for the first time, so they will have that hunger. They will have that motivation to prove everyone wrong, and maybe. They will pick the first match, and obviously the Delhi Capitals. I think they will miss Shreyas Iyer, their captain. And obviously, we all know his contribution in last couple of seasons. Ever since he was made the captain, and Ricky Ponting came and joined the team as the coach. Obviously, the last 3 seasons, it is one of the most consistent franchise in IPL. So, but still, I would put my money on Chennai Super Kings. The sheer fact is that their pride is at stake. They would like, I mean, talking the likes of Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the Ravindra Jadejas, and so they Suresh Raina, obviously he will be in that side this season. Obviously he missed it last season doing due to personal reasons. So I think lot at stake for Chennai Super Kings, and they would like to make a winning start in the IPL.
Yeah, I think Suresh Raina is a very significant player, more than we imagine. His presence is always, his experience, his presence, his support to the likes of Dhoni is very significant. Plus, they've got Sam Curran, who I think is going to be pivotal. I'm sure Chris Vernon will talk highly of Sam Curran, and he's 95 in the previous match prior to this particular tournament. The reality is that he will be very pivotal as well. CSK will do better than, they'll be in the top 4 or 5. I'm not convinced they'll be top 2 or 3. I still think Mumbai will be there, obviously, even though they lost today. And I'm saying watch out for Delhi Capitals. Abhishek, what's your thoughts?
First of all, the match is in Wankhede tomorrow, and the smaller ground and the pitch condition, it will definitely suit CSK, and the Delhi Capitals are without their regular captain, that is Shreyas Iyer, and it's highly, I mean, Rishabh Pant. I mean, if you look at Rishabh Pant as a captain, then MS Dhoni is on the other hand, the institute of a captaincy, or the aura that he has in terms of I mean, whatever we call. So they have strengthened their batting order this time. It could be either Robin Uthappa or Rituraj Gaikwad could be opening. Then they had also got Moeen Ali, and Sam Curran is always there. So yes, for tomorrow's match, I will definitely pick CSK. But to be honest, I'm a KKR fan. I'm a huge KKR fan. If I could show my collection someday, I have at least 60 to 70 KKR jerseys at my home. But as I'm representing
Oh my
Bharat
gosh.
Army, I'm wearing. Yeah, so I'm a huge KKR fan, so I don't look beyond it. I mean, of course, I am a huge cricket fan, but I used to be a Shahrukh Khan fan, so my soft corner lies with KKR. So my first and two will be KKR and some other team, maybe Mumbai Indians. But I will keep CSK this time in the hunt of playoffs for sure.
So where you're from, Odisha, explain to us where that is exactly.
Sorry,
Your
question to
location.
me.
Yes, yes. Odisha,
So
where
I could not hear.
Okay, your location is where you live is Odisha, correct?
Yes, but it's a complete mix actually. My hometown is in Odisha. It's the neighboring state of West Bengal. And I used to work in Hyderabad. So used to watch KKR games in Hyderabad home ground. But my soft corner lies with KKR because I used to like Shahrukh Khan at some point of time. So the fandom started from there. But now I'm a diehard KKR fan and a Shahrukh Khan fan later on. So it's all a mix. I'm a cricket fan, but Odisha is next to West Bengal only. So that's how I can explain.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm a KKR fan as well. I've always been, even though I think Delhi Capitals are going to win, just to let you know, I'm a KKR fan. And it's not because of Shah Rukh Khan. It's probably one of his fellow actresses, in fact, Deepika Padukone. I think she influenced me quite a bit. I'm not going to go into that. It's another story altogether, but Deepika is my favourite. A pity she doesn't play cricket, because I would watch her. I would watch her very carefully. In fact, I would encourage any of the IPL sides to put Deepika Padukone as the 12th person on the team. I would watch. All right. Back to the cricket. I digress. It was your fault, Abhijit. You talked about Shah Rukh Khan, so I had a reason to talk about Deepika Padukone. It's all your fault. I had no intention of talking about it until you brought that up. Anyway, all right. Back to the fact that KKR, we haven't talked about KKR as a team. I'm bringing a bit of the other teams involved because we must look ahead as well as to today's game. KKR, Chris, any thoughts on KKR?
No, I was just going to touch quickly before the game tomorrow. I'm going to go against the Bassis and I think that CSK could finish bottom this year. I just look at their squad and I just see them on. I mean, they've got plenty of experience, but I just don't see any young match winner. They've got Dhoni, Reina, Imran Tahir, Dwayne Bravo. Faf du Plessis. I'm just struggling to see that kind of, and I know that there's a lot of Indian fans and Dhoni fans, and he's fantastic, what a brilliant skipper. But I'm just worried looking at their squad that they're potentially in the later years of their career, even some of the overseas that they've got in, and they're going to be heavily reliant on Sam Curran, who is a brilliant young English talent, but is certainly a long way to go to prove himself on that stage. Especially bowling. He's batting. I know he got 90 odd in the last game against India, but before that, his high score was 15. So, but then again, the best chance to beat Delhi Capitals is probably tomorrow. They're going to be missing Rabada and Norkia, which, as proven last year, is probably the best, certainly the most firepower in the tournament in terms of new ball bowling attack. So, I think it's going to be a hard game to call. I see that Delhi Capitals, I know Norman thinks they're going to win. I think they'll be in the top four, but I think they're just lacking a batter and a bowler if you look at their squad. But I think they'll have enough to beat CSK tomorrow.
And that's, I am more on your side regarding CSK. I think a lot of passion, a lot of emotion about the team, a lot of, reminiscence of the times when Dhoni and Reina were certainly in charge and Bravo was more of a fresher player. But I think they're going to struggle a bit. They may be slightly better than last. They might be in that middle period or that middle number in the order. But I think they're going to struggle a bit more. I'm more buoyant about Delhi Capital. I think they'll actually do well without Rabada and Norjay. I think they'll still do well. And I think their batting strength are there. So I'm a bit more thinking they're balanced. Chris and I disagree with that. Okay. KKR. I just want to get. We've talked about KKR. Quick thoughts on them.
I think they've been quite shrewd in a couple of their. I think that Pat Cummins is probably due a good tournament. They've got a lot of good young Indian talent, and I've sort of said before that the reason I think Mumbai Indians have done so well is because probably 5 of their best players were Indian players, whereas a lot of other sides rely heavily on their overseas. Look at Mumbai Indians: Sharma, Ishan Kishan, Sky Yadav, Jasprit Bumrah, Hardik Pandya. You've got 5 guys that are probably in an Indian best 11, or could argue to be, and then the overseas complement them. I think that Shakib Al Hassan for KKR's could be a very shrewd pickup. Obviously been through some controversy. I know he had some time out of the game and probably a point to prove. But he can win a game with bat and ball, as he's proven, many times over the years. Pat Cummins, Lockie Ferguson. It seems to be the way in the IPL that a big premium's put on those big fast bowlers, overseas fast bowlers, and most sides have at least 1 or 2 that are quick and can really trouble batsmen. So I expect them to go well. I think that they would want to get more out of Andre Russell. Last year, I think he was a bit, he's probably in the later years of his career as well. I think that he's probably not as fit and as he once was, but they want to get more out of him. It'd be interesting to see. I'm interested to see how this Chakravarti goes for them. Obviously, he's been in the India mix, but I think he was the guy that failed his fitness test, wasn't he? Or wasn't picked because of his fitness. So he could have a point to prove. And the one thing you would say, looking at India over the last 6 to 8 months, is that there's a lot of fire in the belly of these young guys coming in. You know, there's a lot of competition for places, and he's got a point to prove. You know, he's going to be wanting to put his head above the parapet and say to Virat, "Why on earth didn't you pick me?" So I'm interested to see how he goes.
So, as captain of their various sides, for example, Virat Kohli, how much influence do they have on the final team selection of the day, guys? Tabashas.
Obviously, I mean, most of the from captains has their say. Obviously, there are few franchise. Obviously, the there is some influence from the franchise owners. But not too early in the season. Obviously, when the teams not do well during the middle of the season, that time you could see the influence of the franchisee owners, or there's more pressure on the management, just as was the case with KKR, obviously changing Dinesh Karthik midway in the season when the team was not doing well, and to have Owen Morgan as the captain of the side means, obviously it was the sheer pressure from the franchisee owners and the team management to have a change of guard. So, but I won't see those kind of thing happening with franchises like Mumbai Indians. So I am talking of the successful franchise, Mumbai Indians or the Chennai Super Kings, or even for that matter, RCB. Obviously, you don't want to tinker with the likes of Virat Kohli because he's too experienced a captain. So, obviously, there are a few another successful franchise is Sunrisers Hyderabad. In last 5 seasons, they made it to the play consistently made it to the playoffs with David Warner leading the side. So, obviously, when IPL started initially, there were a little bit of pressure from the franchisee owners and the team management, but those were the old days. But I don't see too much of an influence from the franchisee owners in modern day, in recent times.
Debashis, you haven't convinced me. I'm pretty sure the owners have a lot more say than we're making out. I think they're quite significant in these games. Their physical presence as well is there. They're not hidden at the games. I think there's an element of more impact of their role, to be honest with you. But obviously the captain has their role, but I think the management and ownership certainly has more of a role than you would imagine. All right. Now, Chris, I'd love to see your room. I know AD de Villiers is actually up there, but also Chris Gale is up there. Now, Chris Gale's involvement with all sides is dramatic, but he tell me about his impact with the Punjab Kings.
Oh, I mean, I just don't. I think that a guy who's been on the circuit for 24 years, I think his international debut was 1999, and someone of that longevity, I just don't think anyone, whether you're a Mumbai Indians fan or a Sunrisers fan, I just don't think you can not have a smile or have some enjoyment watching someone like Chris Gale bat. Punjab started horrifically last year, they're rock bottom, and then Gale came into the side. I know that he batted at 3, but their form seemed to upturn when he came in, and someone suggested that he isn't an automatic pick for them this year. It's tough. I would love to see him play. I just think that he's one of those guys that just makes the other batters lift. I think that he's just that presence in the side, and I know that he's coming towards the end of his career, but I think as a cricket fan, I just think Chris Gale's brilliant. I think that he's if there's one player in the tournament that I would happily watch get 100 every game, it would be Chris Gale, without a doubt, because I think that he just he can still do it. I know he's a bit older and a bit sort of stiffer and immobile than he was, but in terms of longevity, you've got to have massive respect and fair play to him.
Well, the reality is that Chris Gale's presence around a team, a squad, a franchise is enormous. Even if he doesn't score a run the entire series, he's the camaraderie he creates, the fun that he creates, the respect through his way is beyond any other player. He's very significant. Abhijit Pandit, now your involvement with KKR, would you love to have Chris Gale in your franchise, KKR?
At the moment, to be honest, no, because we are already locked with one option, that is Owen Morgan. We have to play Owen Morgan because he's the captain, so only 3 overseas spot left. And if you look at Shubman Gill, he is quite a solid batsman, but he strikes at one in excess of 115 plus. That is his strike rate. And we all know Chris Gill likes to take time. So Chris Gill, I mean, if I remember the golden days of RCB, there was Mayank Agrawal hitting at the other end, so that Chris Gayle would take his time, and once the spinner are on or once he's settled, then he will uh, accelerate from there on. So KKR already has a batsman like that, that is Shubman Gill. If you ask Shubman Gill to stay till 20th over and score 80 from 50 or 60, he can do it nine times out of 10 times. So with already one batsman of such rank, then KKR is known to experiment with Sunil Narine. Who would have thought that? So KKR loves to experiment and loves to throw one ace out of one rabbit out of the hat, which is completely surprising. So at the moment, he was already with us from 2008 to 2010. Some good 50s at the top of the order from Chris Gayle was there for KKR. But at the moment, I would look beyond him and I would let Rahul Tripathi and Shubman Gill open for us.
Okay. Tanish Chakar says DC tomorrow winning. I already like you, Tanish, because I agree with you. So I already like him. So that's something that DC, I think, are the Smokies still. I think they're my team. Not my favourite, KKR, but I think DC will certainly do well. What a start to the tournament, guys. I still feel like I was watching a later in the series match with the intensity. Perhaps the standard wasn't quite there, but the intensity was certainly there. There were fielding mistakes, yes. But I think Marco Jensen, DeBarsters, your words, he impressed me sufficiently for his first set. He took 2 wickets. He could be a really important part of the overall makeup of the side.
But I don't see him playing regularly in that Mumbai Indians side, because when you have Adam Milne and Quinton de Kock in the reserves, I definitely, as we have pointed out, obviously Chris Lynn, after his knock today, he deserves a place in that side. But
He
I am
does.
sorry, but in a format like IPL, you have only 4 foreigners, and if you pick Quinton de Kock, and we all know that Pollard is a certainty in that side, and you have someone like Coulter Nile in the reserves, and so is Adam Milne, Quinton de Kock. So it will be very tricky, but he did impress. His first match on a stage like IPL, it's a big stage, 20-year-old. Um, um, he did impress, but I doubt whether he will get many matches. I would say consistently getting matches in that playing 11, in that Mumbai Indians playing 11.
Oh, that's very much so. It's sad in some ways because I like to see him in there regularly, but he may have to be squeezed out considering that cap on the 4 international players. Chris Vernon, who was the player of the match today for you?
I mean, you have to give it to Harshal, don't you? Really, I saw something on Twitter that was a pretty amazing stat that today broke an 11-year record. Rohit Sharma had the best bowling figures against Mumbai Indians for the last 11 years in the IPL, and it was broken today by Harshal Patel, which I found quite funny. Mumbai Indians really were sort of looking to get going towards the last 4 or 5 overs, and his spell caught them back, whereas RCB took a much more measured approach to it with Kohli and Maxwell. That they set up a chase, whereas Harshal Patel's sort of clawed them back, and he scored the winning runs. He hit 5 or 6 off the last over, a couple of 2s, and saw the ball over the line. So it's very difficult not to give man the match to a guy that took 5 for 20 and hit the winning runs. But apart from that, there's a few 40s. I think 4 or 5 40s, weren't there? I think Maxwell got 40, Kohli of 30s or 40s. De Villiers' knock was probably the difference. He showed his experience there. But I mean, Harshal Patel has to be man the match there, doesn't he? I think.
I would agree. But there were impressive signs to both Lynn and Maxwell, the Australian contingent. They both played. They've played a bit of brand, both of them. They've been given some criticism over time for not being consistent with their form. But Chris Lynn is making a mark. I think, DeBarsters, we could see a future. What is it? Purple cap, green cap. What's the cap for the batter again?
Orange
Oh,
cap.
Purple.
Orange. Oh, right. Orange.
Orange cap. I mean,
I
I
always
would say
lose track of. I must be colorblind, but I'm not sure what color. But let's
Do
orange
you,
cap for the
question,
best bat.
I had a question for Debasis, and I know that Quinton de Kock and rightly so will come in. Today Mumbai, Pollard and Hardik didn't bowl. Do you not think that there's an argument that you could maybe drop Pollard and play an extra batsman, play a Chris Lynn at 5 or 3 or 4? Have de Kock, Sharma, then Sky, Ishan, Kishan, and Lynn as a top 5. Because if Pollard's not going to bowl, and I know he'll bowl the odd over, because you probably go to Hardik first as a frontline bowler. So Pollard's probably your 7th bowler in that side. Are you going to get more runs or firepower consistently out of a Chris Lynn on smaller grounds than you would out of a Pollard? I wonder whether Pollard on his day is probably the best in the tournament in terms of a match-winning powerhouse innings. But you think more consistently that Chris Lynn might get more runs than Pollard on a especially if you're 20 for 3 or, as a top order bat. And if he's not bowling Pollard and Hardik didn't bowl, I wonder whether they'll think they can get more out of Chris Lynn in the middle order.
I rightly pointed out. I think this will hurt Mumbai Indians big time this season, because Hardik, I doubt whether he will be bowling regularly this season, because he still means, as was the case for Indian team, he hardly bowls. Means he did not bowl in the ODIs. So I think that is a fair point, and also with Pollard not bowling regularly, so and also it's a fair point to have Chris Lynn in the side, because he can give you quick runs and set the tone at the start at the top order. And then Quinton de Kock can come and one down, or Quinton de Kock might open, or with Chris Lynn coming in at one down with Sky, Ishan, Kishan to follow. But then, having said that, obviously, then who would be your 4 foreigners? Obviously, we assume that Quinton de Kock will be playing most matches for Mumbai Indians, along with Trent Bolt. Trent Bolt is definitely a certainty. Then who the other 2 foreigners will be? Obviously, it will be a choice between and having said that, Pollard has been a regular in the Mumbai Indians side. I mean, he's been an integral member helping this franchise to win 5 IPL trophies. So I think he automatically he has that respect in that dressing room, Kieron Pollard. So he deserves a place in that side. So that's the reason I think they won't tinker with the place of Kieron Pollard. So that leaves only one place to choose from the 5 foreigners that they have. So it is a pity not if Chris Lynn does miss out in the next match, but as you rightly pointed out, means it's a valid case for Chris Lynn and Quinton de Kock both to play in that playing 11.
I think
the reality is they've got a few games to experiment with it. So it's too early.
They often start badly too, Mumbai. I know a couple of years ago they were almost bottom after 4 or 5 games. They typically don't start well and then pick up later in the tournament, which is the best way to be. But yeah, I think the best is probably right. I think that Peacock and Bolt are 2 probably nailed on, and it's probably Pollard or Lynn for the others for one slot, and then Coulter-Nile or Janssen for the other. It's probably 2 players for one slot each, if that makes sense. So Pollard will probably have the jersey for the start, but when a guy like Chris Lynn, and bearing in mind they'll be netting every day and he'll be whacking it everywhere, we know how well he hits it. There's a bit of pressure on Pollard too when he gets his chance to take it and score runs, because he's done that today. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Same with Marco Janssen. All you can do is the first over he bowled was pretty horrific, wasn't it? I think he bowled a no ball that got hit for 6, free hit got hit for 6 maybe, or for 4. He clawed it back, and the only way that you can make sure you keep that jersey is to take wickets and to bowl good overs. And it showed a lot that Sharma trusted him at the death as well. I know that Bumrah bowled the 19th when he probably would bowl the last in normal conditions, but he didn't turn to Hardik, he didn't turn to Pollard. He trusted his 20-year-old overseas with the crucial overs. So I think that shows a lot that maybe they're going to give him a run. Coulter-Nile in the last couple of years has been expensive and not taken many wickets. I know he's a proven international and has a lot of experience, but maybe that they're going to take a view that we're going to give this guy a change. He has a big, tall left armour. That's something a bit different, and maybe they're going to give him a run.
And does that make a case for Adam Milne? because he's also been picked in the Mumbai Indians side. So, do you think that he can be a good option for Mumbai?
But definitely, proving it in England, proving it in the Big Bash. He's quick. Why didn't he play today? Was he quarantining, or was he not fit?
Yeah,
Or
he was quarantining today along with Deacock. Means they are still not out of quarantine.
I would imagine that Milne might play over Coulter-Nile. Coulter-Nile obviously adds the batting side. He can score some handy runs. So yeah, I guess the good thing for Mumbai is that they've got good options all over, because they've already got a left armer in Trent Bolt, and sides do like having a left arm option. So yeah, maybe it'll be a rotation thing, but Janssen bowled well. I think he probably does enough to keep his spot for next game. Milne will obviously be keen to come in, but I think that Janssen probably keeps his slot for next game. But but the pressure's on. You see what a lot of what these guys are made of when they know that Adam Milne and Coulter-Nile are sat there desperate to pull the shirt on. So yeah, I was impressed. I didn't like his first over. I thought that he looked a bit nervous and a bit all over the place, but he held his nerve pretty well at the end, so fair play to him.
The reality is that Coulter-Nile's played very little cricket of any great standard. I think that Coulter-Nile may struggle to make his place in the side. Now he's got IPL experience, but he hasn't been at his best for some time now. And from an Australian perspective, he's certainly on the outer of any national selections. He's not as prominent as he was in the past. All right, guys, I'm conscious of time. I think we've had a great discussion today. I'm very much thankful for Abhijit Panda from the Barrett Army to be a part of this, and I think it was wonderful to have you here. It was good for Chris Vernon to be here as well, and of course Tabasum Sen with his.
And I must thank Chris, because I'm a favorite of him. Means he's a real star, and he will only add value to this to our discussion. And you have been a great host, Norman. Yeah, and you have been a great host, Norman. So it's just the start of the season, long season. It's just the first match, still 57, 59 matches to go, including the final. So hopefully we'll have good discussion over the time.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks, everyone. This has been a fantastic hit out for a post-game review on Extra Time. Thanks for your time, guys. We'll see you again pre and post the next match, which is CSK versus, of course, the likes of Delhi Capitals. So thank you, guys, and see you again. Signing off from Extra Time. This is Norman Kochnet.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.